Welcome to the first TheAntiPCProf podcast with your host, Michael Rechtenwald. I am going today to discuss grievance studies, the field of grievance studies and the marginalization of students and faculties. The title of this piece, which ran on Russia Today a couple days ago, is called Grievance Studies Fields Encourage Marginalized Students and Faculty to Become Jacks of All Grievances and Masters of Nothing. Denial to this professor of tenure led to uproar among students and other grievance studies faculty across the country and even around the world. Grievance studies, by the way, is a satirical name that was given to this set of fields devoted to such things as gender studies, masculinist studies, queer studies, sexuality studies, critical race theory, critical whiteness theory, fat studies, skinny studies, anorexic studies, whatever. Anybody that's got some sort of victim class typology is welcome to create a field and just inaugurate it with some crap essay and go from there. This name was coined by Helen Pluckrose and Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay, which they said when they sent these hoax papers out to all these grievance studies journals and got 7 of them published. They said it proved that academ's leftist, victim-obsessed ideological slant and low publishing standards was in evidence. Agreed, if not worse. The trio roiled academia by securing these publications. Despite that, students believe in this victim studies to the T, and they've been nurtured along with grievances by their professors, teaching them that they are aggrieved parties. They should identify themselves as aggrieved parties, and that whole life should be concerned with being aggrieved parties. Because after all, they're oppressed by the white, supremacist, sexist, heteronormative, anti-whatever, PC, horrors of whiteness. Whiteness is condemned to such an extent that it's not going to be surprising when cumulus clouds and white snow are deemed white supremacist. That's how absurd this has gotten. As I noted in my previous piece on RT, basically what's happening is that whiteness is anything white now is condemned as racist, even plastic robots. Racist robots. Anyway, I have noted, and so has Heather McDonald, that social justice in the permeation from grievance studies into the rest of the academy has eroded academic standards across the board, including in the STEM fields. You have such things as professors of, for example, engineering education, suggesting that rigor in engineering is a heterosexist, patriarchal, erection-laden phallic term and should be abolished and banished from the field. So we would have, as I say in my next book, death by diversity, because once you have feminist bridges and subaltern tunnels that collapse based on poor engineering, we're going to die. People are going to die from diversity. The premium put on phenotypical difference. That's really all that is. By placing the representation of social identity categories and social justice imperatives above the pursuit of knowledge in the university system, Harvard and others have harvested a social justice standard at odds with the standard of truth. That's the basic idea here for this essay. Some of the highlights, other than those that I already mentioned, are the fact that the professor in question was basically a shoddy researcher, a shoddy scholar with one book and like 4 articles after 6 to 7 years, I think, of professorial work at Harvard. I mean, that's just not enough to get you anywhere at Harvard. But the big deal is that the grievance studies fields can't be judged on anything like objective standards of excellence because the fields are based on the supposed marginalization, exceptionalism, and peculiarity of the fields and those who study them. The primary criterion for being a grievance studies scholar is membership in the oppressed and marginalized group being studied. Such groups are obviously underrepresented in the academy on the basis of racism, not the fact that they can't keep up in terms of scholarship or rigor. And the standard of inclusion in a social identity group admits you into the grievance studies field, but it is not an academic standard, and that's the problem. These fields are at odds with the rest of the academy. Grievance studies scholars, for example, describe the academy as a whole as a hotbed for racist, sexist theorizing, research, and practices since its inception. A very poor sentence written by a very poor thinker. Considering the accomplishments in other fields as due to white supremacy means that the standards in other fields must be supremacist as well. Therefore, rejecting the standards in other fields, dismissing rigor as sexist, and deeming excellence as white supremacist, the field is prone to a lack of legitimacy given that ethnic studies continues to be plagued by credibility and legitimacy crisis. And this, unfortunately, the grievance studies have, if they weren't contained in their own little universe and didn't spill over to the rest of the entire academic world, they would be just a pet joke that we could tell. But this has permeated everything in the academy, obviously. But further, of course, it's also permeated the whole society. Those who say, oh, the woke people are such a small minority, don't worry about them, are wrong. This is the hegemonic ideology in society, including on the internet and media, social media, everywhere. So don't tell me that wokeness is some sort of just the obsession of blue-haired kids on college campuses. We're talking about the dominant ideology of the entire social order, which is eroding all of Western civilization and threatening our values to the core. All because we have to equal everybody out in a leveling process that is always, of course, downward and a race to the bottom, which they think is the top. Because as I've said in Springtime for Snowflakes, once you get to the bottom, the social justice totem pole is flipped upside down and you end up at the top. So while it's a race downhill, it's a race to the top. It's a very peculiar situation. That's all for today's TheAntiPCProf podcast, the first in a long series to come. And I ask you to take a look at my website, michaelrechtenwald.com, where you'll find my books, my essays, my presentations, talks, and also you'll find a list of all of my media, most of the major media that I've done, including interviews, reviews of my books, stories about my situation and my arguments, and so on and so forth. And also photo gallery, which, if you will, take a picture of yourself holding one of my books, either Springtime for Snowflakes or Google Archipelago. Take a picture of yourself reading the book, and you'll end up in my photo gallery, guaranteed. What you do then is click on the email icon at the top of the michaelrechtenwald.com page. Send the picture as an attachment. Please tell me your name so I can put that in the photo gallery and identify you there. You'll see some famous people there and some great friends of mine as well. And I'd like you to become one of them. Thank you very much. Till next time, it's Michael Rechtenwald, the TheAntiPCProf.